So we meet at last, or at least since last week. Hello, friend. Thank you for listening to 15 Minutes with Fuzz, a show about the positive things happening in and around Washington County, Wisconsin. My name is Fuzz Martin. This is Season 4, Episode 3, the 118th overall episode of the show, and I really appreciate you listening. If you have been listening for a while, you kind of know that I have 4 main rules for this show. 1 is no politics. 2 is no negativity, cynicism, or criticism. 3 is be interesting, and 4 is keep it short. And I've actually changed the rules recently. Number 3 used to be no criticism, but that was really kind of an offshoot of rule number 2, the no negativity or cynicism rule. So I've put those together, and I made be interesting my 3rd rule. Anyway, last week I broke my keep it short rule, the 4th rule, and the show ran about 25 minutes long. For a 15 minutes podcast. It's, that's almost twice as long. Sorry about that. This week, I'm straddling the line on rule number 1, the no politics rule, but only because it deals with an item that is election related. We don't get into the politics of the item, but we are talking about a referendum. And this is my 3rd ever episode about a referendum. So it's not like without precedent. And I think it's important that people know what's on their ballot. And again, we don't really get into the politics of it. It just happens to be about an election. I'm not going to justify it. It's my show. I can do what I do what I want. Jim Healy, the village administrator in Richfield, joins me this week to talk about the village of Richfield's public safety referendum. There are changes going on with Richfield's fire and EMS department, and the referendum focuses on shoring up how these services will be covered with these changes. Jim will tell us more about that in a second. So with that, here are 15 minutes on the Village of Richfield's 2024 public safety referendum with Village Administrator Jim Healy right here on 15 Minutes with Fuzz. Jim, welcome back on 15 Minutes with Fuzz. Happy to have you back.
Thank you. It's, last November.
Yeah, it was last November.
Thank you for bringing me back. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump right in and talk about public safety. It's a big topic, like all throughout the United States. Obviously, it's hitting close to home for you in Richfield. It's hitting close to home for us in Kewaskum. It's hitting close to home all over the place. Can you start by giving us a background on the state of the fire department in Richfield, kind of where things are at right now?
Sure. So we are served by the Richfield Volunteer Fire Company, which is a private nonprofit organization, and they've existed for 125 years. And on April 1st, they made a vote to dissolve themselves. And it was actually the day before our spring election. And so then we had to quickly decide, how and in what manner we're going to move forward, knowing that we're going to be essentially doubling the amount of staff that we have here in the village presently. And so we sat and we talked with the board members from the Richfield Volunteer Fire Company. They said, there's no way for their organization to move forward. And we explored our options, and a decision was made to become a municipal department starting January 1st or as soon thereafter as we can do. And so right now we're in the process of working on that transition. And, we have to do things like hire a full-time fire chief. We're currently without a fire chief right now. So we're doing that process and then working on, getting everything in order so that there's a smooth transition and there's no interruption to service for our residents or, the communities we may serve in the future.
Now, overall, and I kind of mentioned across the United States, one of the big issues is volunteerism, right? It's hard to find people who aren't so busy with their lives that they're able to do some of this stuff, right? Is that one of the issues that led to this dissolving?
For us, pre-COVID, we had over 75 paid-on-call volunteers, and now we're down to about 21.
Okay.
We have 6 full-timers that work for us, and we do 3 duty groups, and there's 2 full-timers per duty group. The difficulty that we have is then staffing the other 2 individuals, whether they're part-time or paid-on-call, because, quite frankly, most of those paid-on-call people have full-time jobs of their own, and like you said, their own competing interests and things that they need to do. So it's become a real a real difficulty for us.
And is that both on fire and EMS that's having that, or is there mostly on the EMS side?
I would say that, we use the term kind of interchangeably with one
Sure.
another because all of our firefighters are trained in EMS,
Okay.
whether they're paramedics or EMT advances.
Gotcha. Okay. And going, to that training, it takes a lot of training to become a paramedic.
Right.
It's like hundreds and like 140, 170 hours, something like that. It's a lot of training. It's a lot of big commitment, and they kind of keep adding more on.
Yes.
So there's not a lot of volunteers around, and it takes a lot in order to do it. And God bless you, all of you who do that. We
Amen.
need more of you. And if you're listening and you think, hey, I'd like to be a paramedic, talk to your local fire chiefs, and they will guide you along the way, that path to getting there. So I'm sorry, I'm digressing. Jim, coming up on August 13th, right?
Yes.
To help remedy this situation for the village of Richfield, you have a public safety referendum to help establish this municipal Richfield Fire Department and EMS. Can you tell us about what's on the referendum? What can your residents of the village of Richfield expect on that referendum?
Sure. So the referendum question that they will see is largely prescriptive by statute with the language that we use. So of course it's a lot of legalese.
Yep.
And so we've been working hard to try to demystify that and have public information meetings in order to answer questions that the public might have. But we're seeking $1.25 million, and that amount will help fund 6 full-time equivalent firefighter EMS personnel, a fire chief, and then a single Washington County deputy sheriff to add to our community.
So how big is the village of Richfield? You're a pretty large community, actually, right?
We are 36 square miles, and we have 11,812 people.
Yeah, and the freeway cuts like right through or right next to, right?
Right. And, we share borders to the south with the village of Lisbon, Germantown, Erin on the west, and then the town of Polk on the north.
So you're getting obviously a lot of traffic flows through Richfield and adjacent to Richfield.
Right. Our state trunk highways, either 175, 167, or 164 are major arterials for, the different labor sheds that we have.
So that leads to a lot of calls. Off the air, we were talking about from the 2 deputy sheriffs that serve your area already, that they serve like 1,200 calls. Is that what the...
Yeah, we received a report from the Washington County Sheriff's Department that the last 2 months they had 1,200 incidents. And
12.
so for, 2 deputies, and that's their responsibility, that's, 300 per month per deputy. And,
that's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work. And that doesn't leave time for investigations or writing reports or doing the actual police work or any of the administrative things that, are now necessary as a part of community policing.
Sure, certainly. So referendum's on the ballot. Let's say that it does pass. What is the plan to hire this new personnel? How will that transition take place?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be easy because all around us, Germantown went to referendum for, I believe it was 10 firefighters. Almost all of Ozaukee County had fire and EMS referendums. And so I know Hartford was hiring a few people. West Bend always is seemingly hiring. And so, there's only a finite amount of these people with this sort of special skill set. And so it is going to be difficult. And recruitment and talking about what we have to offer as an organization and the residents that we serve, I hope will be a large part of that.
Sure. And maybe some of the volunteers currently on staff, maybe potentially as well?
We need every single one of the volunteers.
Okay.
And the part-timers that we have, we hope to transition over as many as possible.
So are there any other surrounding community? I mean, we talked about those communities that are like Lisbon and some of those that touch your borders, but does your fire and EMS department, do they serve any of those other communities directly?
We do. We serve the entire town of Germantown.
Okay.
And then a few square miles in Polk, and I think it's 8 square miles in the town of Erin.
Okay. I know a lot of the, a lot of the different fire departments have contracts where they serve these different areas. So I was just curious as to
right. I believe we are 36 square miles as a community, but I think in total we serve 49 square miles with the fire company presently.
You had stated that the ask in the referendum is for $1.25 million.
Yes, sir.
What is the financial impact on the referendum to an average Village of Richfield resident in this?
Yeah, it's $63 per 100,000 of assessed value of your home.
Okay.
And so if you have a $400,000 home, it's $252 and some change.
Okay. How's the feedback been currently on this?
Well, I mean, we live in Washington County, which is obviously very fiscally conservative.
Mhm.
But I would say generally the support that we have seen has been great. And we're still working on rolling out information. We just had a community-wide mailer that went out advertising for our last 2 public information sessions that we have in July and in August. So, but for the first meeting that we had about 30 or 40 people there. And hey, for any government meeting, 30 or 40 people who show up, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I would say so. Let's say worst case scenario, because obviously it's an election, anything can happen.
Yep.
In the event that this referendum does not pass, what alternatives does the Village of Richfield have to public safety, I guess, with you can't force the fire department to not
continue
dissolve.
to stay. Yeah.
Yes, it's just not on the table, right? So
No.
what happens from there? Is a contract with another department, or how does that work?
Quite honestly, what the likely course of action will be is that we'll continue to move forward, and the board will have to make the difficult decision to borrow money. Our community is not one that generally borrows, but we are legally obligated by Wisconsin state statutes to provide fire and EMS service, as well as police service to our residents. And so our job is to make the difficult decision and find the way to make it happen. And unfortunately, what that means is tens of thousands of dollars in unnecessary interest payments that, will have to be paid if it weren't to pass.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that is obviously 36 square miles of residents that you have to service. If somebody's house is on fire, if somebody's having a heart attack, if somebody's slips and falls, then they need to be taken care of. And,
Right.
And there has to be some way to do that everywhere.
And 150 miles of road. I mean, we're primarily a residential community, and we're starting to see some changeover from maybe the original homeowners who built your typical 1970s ranches, and some newer families are moving into the community, and they don't know any of the history of our community. They don't even know that we have a private fire company. They just expect, if they're coming from a more urbanized area, like my neighbors came from Brown Deer, they just thought that they were municipal. And so, kind of closing the gap of that and talking about the institutional knowledge that the fire company brings to our community. Not only that, but all of the assets that come with it, I think, is another real benefit. We're going to be getting all of their equipment, all of their properties. So it's really a gift that will get us on the right foot, heading in the right direction.
Yep, certainly. All right. One more time, what are the key dates and deadlines that the Village of Richfield residents should be aware of regarding voting on this referendum?
So the last day to request an absentee ballot is August 8th. In-person early voting is from July 30th through August 9th, and we go from 8 to 4. We are going to be doing, on the last day of absentee voting, August 9th, we'll be open till 5, but then we're also doing voting on a Saturday, which is something that we haven't done before. But Saturday, August 3rd from 8 until 12, we'll also be having absentee voting hours for those who can't make it in person during our normal voting hours.
Okay. And then obviously on Tuesday, August 13th.
That's right. From 7 a.m. until 8 p.m.
All right. Very good. So let's switch gears quick, because I know this is a heavy topic for you that you are probably talking about all the time, but there's other things going on in the Village of Richfield.
Tons of great things.
So since the last time you were on in November, we talked about a few of the things going on. Have there been any other exciting developments or new initiatives going on in the Village of Richfield since then?
I would say the biggest thing that's been generating the most buzz in our community is the Richfield Farmers Market. I know you had Judy on here to talk about what's going on there. I had an opportunity to go to it last week, and I was surprised at the number of vendors that we have, the diversity of vendors that we have, and now all we need is the vegetables to start producing, and we'll be ready to rock and roll.
I had reached out to Judy, or she had actually reached out to me as well. There'd been a lot of rain, but she had said that it still had been steady, people coming despite the rain and vendors showing up, and that's great. And I know it was a big undertaking for her to get it off the ground, and proud of her for doing so.
Yeah, it's great. And, we've got a lot of local farmers. And I think she told me that every agricultural producer that we have is from the village of Richfield.
Oh, wow.
So it's great that we're able to support the local farming community in this new and different way.
Very good. Any other upcoming events or community projects that those listening should not miss?
Well, the biggest thing that we got cooking during the month of August is Richfield Days. It's the last weekend of the year. We've got the Mance Brothers coming, playing Saturday night. We've got an amazing fireworks show, which is sponsored in part with Land and Stone Products, our local quarry in town. We've got just a tremendous show, great entertainment, great music and food. So encourage everybody to come out the last weekend in August and have a great time with their family.
Which park is that at?
Fireman's Park. 2008 State Highway 175 is the address.
All right, very good. And Mance Brothers, back when I was on the radio, the Mance Brothers were, I don't know, I'm guessing they're like 5 years at least younger than I am, but they'd been going to the Mine Shaft doing country karaoke. I used to host country karaoke at the Mine Shaft like every Friday night of my life from when I was like, I don't know, 21 till I was like 31. I was so glad when the no smoking laws in Wisconsin went into effect like 2 years after I started that, and I was like so thankful. Anyway, I met the Mance Brothers there, and then they like ended up in like Nashville and stuff like that. They're great. They're great.
They're doing really well. I had somebody who went down to Nashville, and they told me that they were at Kid Rock's bar down there, and they were performing, and they said from Richfield, Wisconsin, and they were like, "What?
Where? Are there two Richfields?"
Yeah,
no.
But it's great. They're great to us. They keep coming home.
Yeah.
And they've got quite the following, so can't wait to see them perform.
Yeah. Well, tell them I say hi.
I will.
All right. Recapping: Village of Richfield public safety referendum takes place Tuesday, August 13th, but in-person absentee ballot is going on
July 30th through the 9th.
All right. Very good. Jim, it was great to see you.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime.
Awesome.
Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Fuzz.
Thank you again to Jim Healy, the village administrator in Richfield, for joining me on this week's episode. If you ever have an idea for the show, I want you to tell me about it. Do not be bashful. And there's so many ways you can get in touch. You can email me, fuzz@fuzzmartin.com. That is fuzz@fuzzmartin.com. You can text me, 262-299-FUZZ. That is 262-299-3899. Or you can use the Suggest a Guest form at fuzz.cc/guest. That is fuzz.cc/guest. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever fine podcasts are played. New episodes coming on Tuesdays. Next week, Lori Prescott joins me to talk about the new Vortex Pickleball Club that is coming to West Bend, and I can't wait for you to hear about it. So we'll talk to you then, right here on 15 Minutes with Fuzz.